So for step 18, the steering adjustment, well, you can see that the way they want you doing this, basically the uprights are slightly pushed forward, you could say. So they want a little bit of a toe in. So not perfectly straight, a little bit of a toe. So these need to be curved out a bit so you can see the line, and then they're showing an arrow. Just they want the upright to be trimmed in a touch and make it equal on both sides. Well, you can see here, we're going to try using the steering trims for that, but if there's too much play and you can't get what they're telling you to do using the trim, we're going to need to take the connector off and turn it in one way or the other to try and correct it. So I'll connect everything and let's see if we can't get this set up properly. Okay, so I've hooked up the battery. I've got my radio here ready to go, and of course we've got our trims, which I'll put like this so you can see it. So I'm gonna try and set this up so that you can see what I'm doing here, hopefully. So you can see that if I turn this left, no problem. If I turn it right, it's catching right here. Notice that the gap, there's a lot more of a gap between the upright and the arm, whereas on this side it wants to touch, so it's definitely off. So I'm going to try adjusting this with the trim. So the steering trim that was on here, if I turn this, no, it's not enough because this needs to be out more. Because I would have to turn this all the way, and even if I turn it all the way over, notice that this one's facing out like that. This one's now straight. So we need to adjust. So even though they told you, the correct lengths, so this isn't right. We're going to have to play around with it to make this more even. So if we know that that is the center point, which we do, then this one is way off. I've got to adjust this so that this is out a lot more. So let's do that. So I've disconnected everything again, and we're going to work on this arm because it definitely just isn't right. You can see on this side, it's pretty much correct. It's parallel to the arms and the shock, and it's slightly facing forward. Whereas this one, it's just way off. It's facing backwards, etc. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to need to use, I have a tool, this tool here, which is designed for the ball connectors, so that you can actually slide that under and then pop it off. Just like that. So we know that this needs to be more facing forward. So if we know that, it's got to come out a fair bit. So we're going to have to turn this adjuster backwards, I think. And see. It's still a ways off. So I'm just going to keep turning it back out until it seems acceptable. Because if we do turn it that way, want it that way. Yeah. It's interesting we want that. Well, that one is pretty much correct, but this one is just way out. But my concern is, how much am I turning this out before it's not even in the ball connector? Well, that's better. So if we look at how that is, and if I'm just going to take a look at it this way. You can see that if we did a little bit of adjustment that way, it might work. Or if we push that one out a bit, it might. So I think that might work. Because I'm going to click it back into place. Let's see if we can do an adjustment here. And I want to set this up so you can see this better. It's going to have to be this way. We're going to have to plug this back in to the battery. Let's see if we can, by using the trim, get this looking a little bit more correct. That side is fine, but this side still is not right. But in order to make the adjustment, I can't go much farther with this, and this will be off the rod altogether. So I think we're going to have to adjust this one. So I'm just going to play around with this a bit, and then we'll see if we can get this right, and then I'll show you what I've had to do. So in the end, I ended up disconnecting this side to lengthen it a bit. Because if we went any longer on this one, notice there's just not that much thread. So I needed to make sure that there was going to be enough of it in order for this to work. So if you look at this, if I put this back on the ball connector, now it is approximately correct. We've got it straight, just towed in a little bit, and the same thing with this, it's towed in. And I mean, I can make some fine tuning, but that I would consider to be correct. So I'm going to call that a go for 18, and I'll reconnect everything. So that means that with that, we would be finished with step 18. And we can now move on to step 19 and attach the tire.